The evening rush had just begun at Salerno's Steakhouse, a high-end restaurant in Carmel by the Sea, California. It was a quiet place, dimly lit with a classic, old Hollywood ambiance, where the rich and famous sometimes dined in peace. Emma Parker, a waitress in her mid-20s, had been working there for just over a month. She was sharp-tongued, overworked, and underpaid. The restaurant's clientele often included arrogant businessmen, spoiled celebrities, and tourists who left laughable tips. Emma had little patience for rudeness, even if it meant speaking her mind. That night, an older man in a simple, weathered leather jacket and jeans walked in alone and took a seat at one of the corner booths. His face was partly hidden under a baseball cap, and he carried himself with a quiet but confident presence. Emma sighed as she approached, assuming he was just another retired local or some stubborn tourist who wouldn't tip well. She tossed a menu in front of him without much thought. "What can I get you?" she asked, barely looking at him. The man lifted his gaze slightly, revealing his rugged, chiseled features. His sharp blue eyes studied her with calm amusement. "How about a steak, medium rare?" he said in a voice that was slow, measured, and unmistakable. Emma scribbled on her notepad and muttered, "Yeah, sure, Grandpa." "Anything else?" The table next to them suddenly went silent. A few customers turned their heads. The bartender nearly dropped a glass. The old man chuckled, a deep, low chuckle. "Grandpa, huh? That's a new one," he said, leaning back in his seat. Emma, oblivious to the growing tension, shrugged. "Well, you walked in here like you own the place." The man smirked and took off his cap. His full face was now visible. A woman at the bar gasped. Another whispered, "Oh my God, that's Clint Eastwood." Emma's stomach dropped. The pieces clicked into place in her mind. The weathered leather jacket, the sharp blue-eyed stare, the unmistakable gravelly voice. And then, the worst realization hit her like a truck. Clint Eastwood did own the place. A cold sweat formed on her brow as she struggled to recover. Sorry, I didn't recognize." Clint smiled, shaking his head. "Relax, kid. I just came in for a steak." Emma stood there, frozen, feeling every set of eyes in the restaurant on her. She had just insulted a Hollywood legend. Worse, she had insulted her boss. What happened next would haunt her for weeks. Emma swallowed hard, her heart pounding. She had two choices: walk away and hope he didn't fire her on the spot, or try to salvage what little dignity she had left. "I'll get that steak right away, sir," she muttered, turning on her heel and practically sprinting to the kitchen. Behind her, quiet murmurs spread across the restaurant. Some customers chuckled, others whispered in disbelief. The bartender shook his head, and even the head chef peeked through the kitchen doors, having overheard the exchange. "You just insulted Clint freaking Eastwood," her co-worker Josh whispered as she reached the counter. "Shut up and give me a steak," Emma hissed, tossing the order slip down. "Medium rare, now." The kitchen staff exchanged amused looks, but the chef didn't waste time. Within minutes, the perfectly cooked steak was plated. Emma took a deep breath, steadied her hands, and carried it back to the table, carefully placing it in front of Eastwood. "Enjoy your meal, sir," she said, forcing a polite smile. He looked up at her, then down at the steak, then back at her. "No spit in it, right?" he asked, a teasing smirk tugging at his lips. Emma blushed. No, of course not." Eastwood chuckled again and picked up his fork. "Good, because I'd hate to fire you before I even get to eat." Her stomach dropped. "Fire me?" He chewed a bite of steak thoughtfully. "Well, technically I could, seeing as how I own the place." Emma opened her mouth, then shut it again. What the hell was she supposed to say? Eastwood wiped his mouth with a napkin, his expression unreadable. The entire restaurant had fallen into an awkward silence, everyone waiting to see if she'd be let go right then and there. Finally, he leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with her. "You know, I like a waitress with a little bite. Keeps things interesting." Emma exhaled. not sure if that was a compliment or a death sentence. I still have a job?" Eastwood took another slow bite, chewing for what felt like an eternity. Then, finally, he swallowed and gave her a small nod. "For now, just don't call me Grandpa again." Emma couldn't help it. She let out a nervous laugh. "Deal." The restaurant erupted in chuckles, the tension breaking like a snapped wire. Emma hurried away, still mortified but relieved beyond belief. Later that night, as she counted her tips, she found a crisp $100 bill folded neatly, with a note scribbled on the receipt. "Good steak. Keep that attitude in check, kid. See?" Emma smiled. Maybe, just maybe, she hadn't screwed up as badly as she thought.